The Inner Citadel, a timeless protocol for human flourishing and sovereign living. Chapter 1. The Foundation of Sovereignty, distinguishing what you can control. At the heart of a flourishing life lies a clear and unwavering understanding. Some aspects of existence fall within your direct influence, while others lie beyond it. This fundamental distinction forms the bedrock upon which all personal growth, resilience, and inner peace are built. By learning to separate these two realms with precision and honesty, you free yourself from needless turmoil and direct your energies toward what truly matters: your own thoughts, choices, efforts, and responses. Consider the nature of human experience. Every day brings a stream of events: conversations with others, changes in health or weather, outcomes at work or in relationships, successes and setbacks. Many of these arrive unbidden, shaped by factors outside your immediate command: the decisions of people around you, the unfolding of circumstances, the limits of the physical world. Attempting to dictate these external realities often leads to frustration, anxiety, or disappointment, because they depend on variables you cannot fully govern. Yet within this flow, there remains a sacred inner domain that is entirely yours. Your opinions about what happens, your desires and aversions, your intentions and impulses to act. These are the elements that truly belong to you. This insight echoes through ancient philosophical traditions that emphasized rational living and virtue. Early thinkers observed that human suffering frequently arises not from events themselves, but from our judgments and attachments to them. A delay in travel, for instance, is merely a circumstance. The distress comes from interpreting it as intolerable or unfair. By shifting focus inward, you reclaim authority over your inner state. You cannot always choose what occurs, but you can always choose how you meet it, with composure, reason, or purposeful action. To make this distinction practical, begin by examining a typical day. Suppose you encounter a disagreement with a colleague. The other person's words or stance may not be under your control. They arise from their own thoughts, experiences, and pressures. What remains yours is your response. The meaning you assign to the exchange, the tone you adopt, the effort you invest in understanding or resolving it. You decide whether to react with anger, curiosity, or calm reflection. Similarly, in matters of health, you may influence your habits, choosing nourishing food, movement, or rest, but the full outcome of bodily well-being involves countless unseen factors. Concentrate on the daily choices within reach, and release fixation on guaranteed results. This separation brings profound liberation. When you stop expending mental energy on what cannot be commanded, you conserve strength for what can. Imagine the relief of no longer carrying the weight of trying to orchestrate every variable in life. Relationships improve because you focus on your own conduct rather than demanding perfection from others. Challenges become opportunities for practice rather than sources of defeat. Inner tranquility emerges as a natural result, not as something chased externally. Practical application starts with simple awareness. Each morning or evening, pause for a few moments of quiet reflection. Review recent events and mentally sort them into two categories. Ask yourself, what here depended on my own actions, judgments, or efforts? And what belonged to the wider world, other people, timing, chance, or natural processes? For the first category, note where you acted in alignment with your better self and where improvement is possible. For the second, practice acceptance. Acknowledge the reality without resentment, then turn attention back to your response. Over weeks and months, this exercise sharpens discernment. You begin to notice patterns, how often worry stems from clinging to outcomes rather than stewarding your own character. The benefits extend to every area of living. In pursuit of goals, clarity prevents discouragement. You set intentions, take consistent steps, and adapt based on feedback without being crushed when external conditions shift. In emotional life, this understanding tempers intense feelings. Grief, fear, or joy still arise, but you engage them thoughtfully rather than being swept away. You might feel sadness over a loss, yet choose to honor it through meaningful action rather than prolonged despair. Courage grows as you face difficulties, knowing your inner fortress remains intact. Consider common life scenarios to deepen the practice. In parenting or leadership, you guide through example and clear communication, but you cannot force another's growth or agreement. Your sovereignty lies in modeling patience, fairness, and persistence. In creative endeavors, inspiration and external recognition fluctuate, yet the discipline of daily effort, the choice to sit down and work, stays yours. Even in solitude, when facing personal habits or inner doubts, the same principle applies. You control the narratives you tell yourself and the small actions that reshape them. This foundation does not promote passivity or resignation. On the contrary, it empowers vigorous engagement with life. By releasing what is not yours to command, you act more effectively in what is. Effort becomes focused and sustainable. You pursue excellence not for fleeting external validation, but for the inherent satisfaction of living in accordance with reason and virtue. Ancient observers noted that those who mastered this distinction lived with remarkable freedom, unburdened by the constant push and pull of fortune's wheel. To integrate this deeply, adopt a daily ritual of examination. At day's close, reflect on 3 instances: one where you successfully directed your attention inward, one where you slipped into concern over externals, and one opportunity for better alignment tomorrow. Keep reflections brief and compassionate. This is cultivation, not self-criticism. Over time, the habit rewires your default responses. What once provoked agitation now prompts a calm sorting. This is mine to address, that is not. Challenges to this practice will arise. The mind naturally drifts toward externals, news of distant events, others' opinions, unpredictable futures. When this happens, gently redirect. Remind yourself that true security and contentment reside in the quality of your inner world. External conditions may improve or worsen, yet a well-ordered mind remains a reliable refuge. This resilience proves especially valuable during times of uncertainty, loss, or rapid change. You weather storms not by controlling the winds, but by steadying the sails of your own judgment and will. As you progress, the distinction becomes intuitive. You move through the world with lighter step and clearer purpose. Interactions gain depth because you bring presence rather than demands. Decisions flow more naturally from aligned values rather than reactive fears. Ultimately, this chapter's foundation prepares the ground for all that follows. The cultivation of virtues, the reshaping of thought patterns, the building of habits, and the pursuit of meaningful aims. Without it, efforts scatter. With it, they converge into a coherent, flourishing life. Everything required for this transformation already exists within you. The capacity for clear judgment, deliberate choice, and patient reflection is part of human nature. These pages serve merely as a reminder and guide, pointing you back to your own inner resources. No special tools or external aids are necessary. Only consistent, honest attention to the boundary between what is yours and what is not. Begin today with one small act of distinction. Choose a single situation from your current circumstances and sort its elements carefully. Notice the immediate sense of relief or empowerment that arises. Carry this awareness forward and watch how it quietly reshapes your days. The inner citadel stands ready, its walls strengthened by every mindful application of this timeless principle. Sovereignty is not granted by circumstance. It is claimed through disciplined attention to what truly lies within your power. Chapter 2: Cultivating the Inner Virtues. wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. The true measure of a flourishing life is not found in external achievements, possessions, or circumstances, but in the steady development of inner character. At the core of this character stand four timeless virtues that have guided thoughtful people across centuries: practical wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These qualities form an integrated whole, each supporting and strengthening the others. By intentionally cultivating them through small, repeated actions, you build an unshakable foundation that brings clarity, strength, fairness, and balance to every aspect of daily existence. Everything you need for this cultivation already resides within you. These pages simply offer a structured path to awaken and strengthen what is naturally present. Practical wisdom, the art of clear seeing and sound judgment. Practical wisdom is the ability to perceive situations accurately and respond with reasoned discernment. It involves looking beyond surface appearances to understand what is truly important, what serves long-term well-being, and what aligns with a life of integrity. Unlike mere cleverness or accumulated facts, wisdom grows through honest self-examination and reflective experience. It asks you to pause amid the rush of daily events and consider, what is the most reasonable course here? What does this situation genuinely require of me? To develop practical wisdom, begin with simple daily inquiry. When facing a decision, large or small, take a brief moment to step back from immediate impulses. Ask yourself a series of gentle but probing questions. What facts do I actually know? What assumptions am I making? How might this choice affect my own character and the well-being of those around me? Over time, this practice sharpens your perception. You become less prone to hasty judgments or emotional distortions. For example, in a moment of conflict, wisdom might reveal that the real issue is not winning an argument, but preserving mutual respect. In planning your day, it might guide you to prioritize depth over busyness. Wisdom also involves learning from both successes and missteps, without harsh self-criticism. Each outcome becomes a teacher. Reflect quietly. What did this reveal about reality, or about my own patterns? This reflective habit prevents repeating unhelpful cycles and gradually builds a more accurate mental map of life. Ancient observers noted that wisdom is not a destination, but a lifelong pursuit, one that deepens with age and attentive living. You already possess the seed of this virtue. Consistent, quiet attention causes it to grow. Courage, facing what must be faced. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act rightly even when fear is present. It manifests in many forms: speaking truth when silence would be easier, persisting through discomfort, or standing by your principles when external pressure mounts. Courage strengthens the will and prevents life from being dictated by avoidance or temporary discomfort. Cultivate courage for incremental practice. Identify small arenas where fear or hesitation appears, perhaps initiating a difficult conversation, trying a new habit, or admitting a mistake. Instead of waiting for overwhelming motivation, take one deliberate step forward despite the unease. Notice that courage often follows action rather than preceding it. The act of choosing to move, even modestly, builds inner resolve. Over repeated instances, what once felt daunting becomes more manageable. Courage also appears in quieter forms: the courage to rest when overwork beckons, to say no to unhealthy demands, or to face uncomfortable truths about your own habits. Without courage, wisdom remains theoretical, justice stays unspoken, and temperance falters under pressure. By practicing courage daily, even in seemingly minor ways, you train yourself to meet larger challenges with greater steadiness. Remember that true courage serves a higher purpose. It is not reckless boldness, but reasoned action in service of what is good and right. Justice, fairness, and kindness in relation to others. Justice extends beyond formal rules or laws to encompass a deep sense of fairness, respect, and goodwill toward fellow human beings. It calls you to consider the common good, to treat others with equity, and to contribute where you are able. At its root, justice recognizes our shared humanity, that each person, like you, seeks to live with dignity and purpose. Develop justice through mindful interactions. In conversations, practice truly listening before responding. In decisions that affect others, weigh their perspectives alongside your own. Perform one small act of fairness or kindness each day, offering help without expectation of return, giving credit where it is due, or extending patience to someone struggling. These acts need not be grand. Their power lies in consistency and sincerity. Justice also includes self-regard, treating yourself with the same fairness you extend to others, avoiding excessive self-blame or neglect. This virtue fosters stronger relationships and a greater sense of belonging. When you act justly, you create ripples of trust and goodwill. It counters tendencies towards selfishness or indifference, reminding you that personal flourishing is intertwined with the well-being of the wider community. Justice, when practiced steadily, elevates daily life from mere self-interest to a more generous and connected existence. Temperance, balance, self-control, and moderation. Temperance is the virtue of moderation and self-mastery. It involves governing desires and impulses so they serve rather than enslave you. In a world filled with constant stimuli and competing demands, temperance helps you maintain equilibrium, neither suppressing healthy enjoyment nor allowing excesses to disrupt your peace and effectiveness. Build temperance by observing your habits around food, speech, work, rest, and consumption of information or entertainment. Notice where impulses pull you toward overindulgence or avoidance. Then introduce gentle boundaries and alternatives. For instance, if scrolling through content late into the evening disrupts rest, choose a fixed cutoff time and replace it with a short period of reflection or reading. If anger rises quickly in discussion, practice pausing before speaking. Temperance is not deprivation. It is wise stewardship of your energy and attention so that you can live more fully and deliberately. This virtue supports all the others. Wisdom requires a calm mind. Courage needs sustained energy. Justice flourishes when desires do not cloud judgment. Through daily moderation, you cultivate freedom, the freedom to choose responses rather than being driven by unchecked urges. Small, consistent acts of restraint or balance compound over time, creating a life of greater harmony and self-possession. Integrating the four virtues into daily life, these four virtues do not operate in isolation. They form a harmonious system. Wisdom informs when and how to apply courage, justice, and temperance. Courage provides the strength to live wisely and justly even when inconvenient. Justice ensures that temperance and wisdom benefit more than just yourself. Temperance keeps the other virtues sustainable by preventing burnout or excess. To weave them together, create a simple daily rhythm. In the morning, set a quiet intention aligned with one or more virtues. Today, I will practice clear judgment in my decisions. Or, I will respond with patience and fairness. During the day, look for natural opportunities to express them. In the evening, reflect briefly without judgment. Where did these qualities appear? Where might greater attention have helped? This rhythm turns abstract virtues into lived realities. Challenges will arise. Old habits, external pressures, or strong emotions may test your progress. View these moments as practice fields rather than failures. Each time you return to the virtues after a lapse, you strengthen the neural and character pathways that make them more automatic. Progress is rarely linear. It unfolds through patient, repeated effort. The rewards of this cultivation are profound and far-reaching. A life rooted in these virtues brings greater inner stability amid change. Relationships deepen through fairness and self-control. Work and creative pursuits gain clarity and persistence. Most importantly, you experience the quiet satisfaction of becoming more fully yourself, aligned, capable, and at peace with your choices. Everything required for this growth is already within you. The capacity for wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance is part of our shared human inheritance. These qualities emerge through attentive living and small, consistent actions. No external resources are needed, only your own mindful presence and willingness to practice. Begin today with one virtue. Choose a single manageable way to express it in the next few hours. Notice the subtle shift in how you feel and act. Over time, as these qualities strengthen, you will discover a deeper sense of sovereignty and fulfillment. The inner citadel is fortified not by grand declarations, but by the steady, daily cultivation of these timeless virtues. Chapter 3. The interplay of thought, feeling, and action, reshaping your inner landscape. Your thoughts shape your emotions, and together they guide your actions. This fundamental interplay forms the living mechanism through which you experience and create your daily reality. By understanding and gently directing this cycle, you gain the power to transform unhelpful patterns into sources of clarity, steadiness, and constructive movement. Everything needed for this reshaping already resides within you. The capacity to observe, question, and choose anew is part of your inherent human endowment. No external devices or purchases are required. Consistent, honest attention to your own mind is the only tool. At its simplest, the process unfolds in a continuous loop. A thought arises, often automatically, and colors how you feel. That feeling then influences the actions you take or avoid. For example, the thought, "This situation is overwhelming and beyond my ability," may generate a sense of anxiety or helplessness. In turn, anxiety might lead to procrastination, withdrawal, or hasty decisions that reinforce the original belief. The cycle perpetuates itself unless interrupted with awareness. The good news is that this chain is not fixed. Thoughts are not absolute truths. They are interpretations that can be examined, tested, and revised toward more balanced and useful perspectives. This understanding draws from broad, timeless observations about human psychology. Early philosophers and observers of the mind noted that much of our distress stems not from events themselves, but from the stories we tell about them. A neutral occurrence, such as receiving feedback on a project, can be interpreted as devastating criticism or as valuable information for improvement. The interpretation, more than the event, determines the emotional response and subsequent behavior. Recognizing this gives you leverage. You cannot always prevent the initial thought from appearing, but you can choose whether to accept it unchallenged or to engage it with reason and curiosity. To begin reshaping your inner landscape, cultivate the habit of mindful observation. When a strong emotion surfaces, frustration, fear, excitement, or sadness, pause briefly if possible. Ask yourself, what thought or interpretation is fueling this feeling right now? Trace it gently, without harsh judgment. Suppose you feel irritation during a conversation. The underlying thought might be, "They are disrespecting me," or "I am not being heard." Once identified, test that thought against available evidence. Is it entirely accurate? Does it consider the full context, including the other person's possible pressures or misunderstandings? Could there be alternative explanations that are equally or more plausible? This gentle testing is the heart of cognitive redirection. Replace an exaggerated or unhelpful interpretation with one that is more realistic and constructive. Instead of "this proves I am incompetent," consider "this is a single moment that highlights an area where I can learn and strengthen my approach." The new thought tends to soften the emotional intensity, opening space for calmer, more effective actions, such as asking clarifying questions, seeking feedback, or simply taking a measured step forward. Over repeated practice, the loop shifts. Balanced thoughts foster steadier emotions, which support wiser actions, which in turn reinforce more helpful thinking patterns. Practical examples illustrate how this works across common life situations. In relationships, the thought, "My partner never appreciates what I do," can breed resentment and lead to withdrawal or sharp words. By examining it, recalling specific instances of appreciation that may have been overlooked, and recognizing that never is an absolute that rarely holds, you might reframe to, "I feel undervalued in this moment, and I can express my needs clearly." The resulting emotion softens from bitterness to a desire for connection, prompting an action like an honest conversation, rather than silent accumulation of hurt. Similarly, in pursuits of personal goals, the automatic thought, "I always fail at this," can paralyze effort. Testing it reveals past successes or partial progress, allowing a shift to, "Each attempt teaches me something useful for the next try." Motivation returns, and small, consistent actions become possible again. The process also applies to positive emotions, amplifying their constructive power. When joy or confidence arises, pause to notice the supporting thoughts. "I handled that well," or "This aligns with what matters to me." Reinforce these by savoring them fully and linking them to deliberate actions, such as sharing the positive moment or building on the momentum. In this way, the thought-feeling-action cycle becomes a generator of upward spirals rather than downward ones. Building skill in this interplay requires patience and repetition, much like strengthening any capacity. Start small. Choose one recurring emotional pattern, perhaps anxiety before important tasks, impatience in traffic, or self-doubt after setbacks. For 1 week, commit to observing it each time it appears. Simply name the feeling and the thought behind it, even if you do nothing more. Awareness alone often begins to loosen the pattern's grip. In the following week, introduce gentle testing and reframing. Keep a quiet mental note, or if helpful, jot a few words in a simple notebook at day's end, summarizing what you observed and any new perspective you tried. Notice how even minor shifts reduce the intensity or duration of unhelpful states. Common obstacles may arise during practice. The mind can resist by claiming, "This thought is just the truth," or "I can't help how I feel." Acknowledge these defenses kindly. They are themselves thoughts that can be examined. Remind yourself that the goal is not to suppress feelings or force false positivity, but to align your inner responses more closely with reality and your deeper values. Feelings remain valid signals. The practice teaches you to respond to them rather than be ruled by them. Another challenge is habitual speed. Thoughts and emotions can cascade quickly. Counter this by creating small pauses throughout the day. A few conscious breaths, a moment of stillness, or a simple reminder phrase such as, "What am I telling myself right now?" As proficiency grows, the benefits compound. You experience greater emotional steadiness amid life's inevitable ups and downs. Decisions improve because they stem from clearer perspectives rather than reactive moods. Relationships deepen as you bring less projection and more presence. Productivity rises when energy previously drained by rumination is redirected toward meaningful effort. Most importantly, you develop a quiet confidence in your ability to navigate internal storms. The inner landscape becomes less a chaotic wilderness and more a cultivated garden that you tend with care and intention. This chapter's principles integrate naturally with the foundation laid in earlier sections. Once you clearly distinguish what you can and cannot control, you apply the same discernment to your thoughts. Focus effort on reshaping interpretations that lie within your influence, and accept initial emotional reactions as passing events. The interplay of thought, feeling, and action thus becomes a daily practice of sovereignty, claiming authority over the one realm that is truly yours. Everything required is already within you. The capacity for self-observation, rational inquiry, and compassionate redirection is part of your natural mental equipment. These words serve only as a mirror, reflecting back the tools you have always possessed. Return to them as needed for reminders, but the real work happens in the quiet moments of daily living. When you catch an unhelpful thought, test it gently, and choose a more balanced path forward. To deepen the practice further, consider weaving it into routine activities. During a walk or commute, use the time to review a recent emotional episode and explore alternative views. Before sleep, reflect on one instance where the cycle played out helpfully or where a small shift might have changed the outcome. Over months, these accumulated moments of awareness create lasting change. The mind grows more flexible, emotions more manageable, and actions more aligned with the life you wish to live. In essence, reshaping your inner landscape is an act of quiet mastery. It does not promise a life without difficulty or discomfort. Such a promise would be unrealistic. Instead, it offers the ability to meet whatever arises with greater skill, perspective, and freedom. By attending to the interplay of thought, feeling, and action, you become the active shaper of your experience, rather than a passive recipient of it. This is the path to a more resilient, purposeful, and flourishing existence, available to you here and now, through the simple, profound power of your own awareness and choice. Chapter 4. The Power of Repetition. Forming habits that serve your highest self. Character and capability emerge not in grand, isolated moments, but through the quiet, persistent rhythm of repeated actions. Much like a path worn smooth across a field by countless footsteps, the qualities we wish to embody, steadiness of mind, kindness in interaction, discipline in effort, take shape when we perform small related behaviors again and again until they feel natural and automatic. This principle stands as one of the most enduring insights into human nature. We become what we repeatedly do. Excellence arises not from a single act of brilliance, but from the steady cultivation of consistent practice. Ancient observers of life recognize that virtue and skill are acquired through habituation. Practical wisdom, courage, fairness, and self-mastery do not appear fully formed. They are strengthened like muscles through regular use. A person grows just by performing just acts, temperate by temperate ones, and steady by choosing composure repeatedly in the face of disturbance. Each repetition etches a deeper groove in the mind and will, making the desired response easier and more instinctive over time. Conversely, patterns we wish to diminish lose their hold when they are no longer fed by frequent engagement. Neglect weakens unwanted tendencies, while attention and action nourish empowering ones. This process reflects the malleable nature of human constitution. Our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors respond to repetition in profound ways. A sequence of mental or physical actions performed frequently tends to perpetuate itself, prompting us almost automatically under similar circumstances. What begins as deliberate effort gradually requires less conscious force, freeing mental resources for higher pursuits. The nervous system, in its remarkable adaptability, grows accustomed to the modes in which it is exercised. Movements or responses practiced regularly become smoother, more accurate, and less fatiguing. This is not mere mechanical routine, but the architecture through which character is sculpted. Consider the practical implications for daily living. Suppose you seek greater composure amid uncertainty. Rather than waiting for a perfect moment of calm, begin with small, repeatable acts, a brief pause and measured breath when tension arises, or a quiet reflection at the start of each day. Perform these consistently, and the response of steadiness becomes more readily available when larger challenges appear. The same holds for fairness in relationships. One deliberate choice to listen fully before responding, repeated across many conversations, gradually shifts your default manner from reactivity to thoughtful engagement. No dramatic overhaul is required, only the patient accumulation of aligned actions. The beauty of this approach lies in its accessibility. Anyone, regardless of starting point, can begin immediately with modest steps. If the aim is increased vitality, commit to a short period of movement or mindful nourishment each day at roughly the same time. The regularity itself builds momentum. Early repetitions may feel effortful, even awkward, yet continuity transforms them. Desire for unhelpful patterns fades when never reinforced, much like a path overgrown when unused. Meanwhile, constructive pathways widen and clear with each traversal. To apply this principle effectively, select one quality or behavior you wish to strengthen, and identify a simple, repeatable action connected to it. For steadiness, the action might be pausing for 3 conscious breaths before answering in conversation. For persistence, it could be spending 10 minutes on a meaningful task, even when inclination wanes. Perform the action daily, ideally in a consistent context, upon waking, after a meal, or before rest. Notice the growing ease without harsh judgment on occasional lapses. The goal is not perfection on every occasion, but the overall direction of repetition. Small, sustained efforts compound far more reliably than sporadic intensity. Reflection deepens the process. At the close of each day, recall moments when the chosen action was practiced, and note any sense of increased naturalness. Where the pattern slipped, observe without self-reproach. Simply renew the intention for the following day. This gentle accounting reinforces awareness and prevents discouragement. Over weeks, the repeated behavior begins to feel less like a task and more like an expression of who you are becoming. Others may notice the shift before you fully do. A calmer presence, a more reliable kindness, a steadier commitment. Challenges inevitably test this work. Familiar contexts may trigger old patterns with surprising force. Fatigue, distraction, or unexpected events can interrupt the rhythm. In such moments, return to the foundational distinction of sovereignty. Focus on what remains within your power, the choice to resume the practice as soon as possible. View interruptions as information rather than failure. Adjust the action if needed, make it even smaller, or anchor it to a reliable cue, and continue. The resilience built through resuming after disruption often proves as valuable as the habit itself. This power of repetition extends across all domains of life. In intellectual pursuits, regular engagement with thoughtful reading or reflection sharpens clarity and insight. In creative endeavors, daily incremental work accumulates into substantial output and refined skill. In relationships, consistent small gestures of attentiveness or gratitude weave stronger bonds. Even in solitude, repeated practices of self-examination or gratitude cultivate an inner environment of balance and appreciation. The principle remains constant. Character is revealed and refined in the small habits practiced day by day. Ancient wisdom further illuminates the mechanism. One thinker observed that excellence is not an isolated performance, but the result of habitual alignment with virtue. Another advised attending to personal improvement daily, finding satisfaction in each purposeful step. These insights remind us that progress stems from deliberate, ongoing effort rather than chance or fleeting motivation. The mind and will are shaped by the quality of our repetitions. Therefore, choosing them wisely becomes an act of profound self-stewardship. Importantly, this process does not demand rigid perfection or suppression of natural variability. Life includes seasons of greater and lesser energy. The key is continuity over long arcs, rather than unbroken streaks. When a day passes without the intended action, the response is simple renewal, rather than abandonment. Compassion toward oneself sustains the journey. Harsh self-criticism often undermines momentum, whereas patient recommitment strengthens it. As repetitions accumulate, profound shifts occur. Behaviors once requiring significant willpower become default responses. Mental energy, once consumed by internal conflict, is freed for creative or generous use. A sense of coherence emerges. Thoughts, feelings, and actions align more naturally with chosen values. This integration brings quiet confidence and a deeper enjoyment of ordinary moments. Life feels less like a constant struggle against inclination and more like an expression of cultivated character. The protocol invites experimentation within this framework. Choose a quality aligned with inner sovereignty, perhaps greater patience, focused attention, or courageous honesty. Define one micro-action, a kind word offered daily, 5 minutes of undistracted presence, or voicing a truthful perspective when silence would be easier. Link it to an existing part of your routine to increase likelihood of repetition. Observe over time how the pattern influences your overall experience. Adjust gently as understanding grows. No external measurement tools are necessary. Your own felt sense of alignment and ease serves as the truest gauge. Ultimately, the power of repetition reveals a hopeful truth about human potential. We are not fixed by temperament or past patterns. Through consistent, intentional practice, we can reshape our responses, and by extension, the quality of our days and relationships. This capacity for self-sculpting resides within everyone. The words here merely point toward it, encouraging you to begin or continue the quiet work of forming habits that serve your highest self. Everything needed for this transformation is already present. The ability to choose a small action, to repeat it with patience, and to renew intention after any lapse. Begin today with one deliberate repetition. Notice its effect, however modest. Carry the practice forward and observe how character quietly strengthens, capability expands, and life unfolds with greater harmony and purpose. The path is walked one step at a time, yet the destination is a self-forged through faithful repetition. Chapter 5. Setting Purposeful Directions. The Art of Clear and Attainable Aims. A life of genuine momentum and deep satisfaction arises when you learn to articulate specific, meaningful directions that align with your deepest values and remain firmly within the sphere of your own influence. Vague longings and scattered wishes produce only diffused effort and eventual disillusionment. In contrast, clearly defined aims focus your energy, invite steady progress, and create a natural rhythm of advancement. This art of purposeful direction draws from the enduring human recognition that a well-ordered life requires deliberate intention, the conscious choice to move toward what is excellent and worthwhile, rather than drifting on the currents of circumstance. Ancient philosophers who contemplated the good life emphasized that true flourishing, often called eudaimonia, or living in accordance with nature and reason, depends on aligning daily actions with a coherent sense of purpose. Without such alignment, even virtuous efforts can feel fragmented. The key insight is this: while you cannot command every outcome, you can always direct your intentions and efforts toward aims that honor wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, the core qualities that sustain a flourishing existence. Begin by reflecting on the difference between mere wishes and purposeful aims. A wish might be, "I want to feel better," or "I hope things improve." A purposeful aim, however, is concrete and actionable. Each day I will dedicate 30 minutes to a practice that cultivates steadiness of mind, such as quiet reflection or balanced movement. The former leaves you passive. The latter places the power squarely in your hands. Purposeful aims are realistic given your current circumstances, yet challenging enough to call forth growth. They rest on the foundation established in earlier chapters, the clear distinction between what you can control and what you cannot. To craft such aims, start with honest self-examination. Ask yourself, in which areas of life do I most desire improvement or expression? Consider the broad domains of human experience: physical well-being, relationships with others, intellectual or creative pursuits, and contribution to the wider community. Within each, identify one or two directions that feel meaningful rather than imposed by external pressure. For example, in the realm of personal steadiness, an aim might be to respond to daily irritations with greater composure. In relationships, it could be to listen more attentively and speak with kindness. The aim must resonate with your own sense of what constitutes a life well lived. Once identified, make the aim specific. Vagueness invites procrastination. Precision invites action. Instead of exercise more, frame it as I will engage in brisk walking or gentle movement for 20 minutes each morning, focusing on the sensation of breath and grounded presence. Specific essency turns the aim into a navigable path. Attach it to a regular time or cue in your day so it becomes part of your natural rhythm rather than an occasional afterthought. This leverages the power of repetition discussed in Chapter 4. Consistent small actions accumulate into lasting character and capability. Equally important is ensuring the aim lies within your sphere of influence. Recall the foundation of sovereignty. Direct effort only toward what you can genuinely shape, your own choices, efforts, and responses. An aim such as, I will become physically stronger through consistent training, focuses on your actions and habits. In contrast, I will win every competition I enter, reaches into externals, the performance of others, judging criteria, or chance, and sets the stage for unnecessary disappointment. Anchor your aims in what you can control, and you preserve motivation even when results vary. Break larger directions into smaller, daily steps. A journey toward greater wisdom or contribution does not require heroic leaps. It advances through modest, repeatable actions. If your aim involves deeper understanding in a chosen field, commit to reading or reflecting on one insightful passage each day and noting a single practical takeaway. If it concerns fairness in interactions, decide on one deliberate act of equitable listening or helpfulness daily. These micro steps prevent overwhelm and allow you to experience frequent small victories, which naturally build momentum and reinforce the habit of purposeful living. Commit fully once the aim is set, yet remain flexible in approach. Life unfolds unpredictably, and rigid attachment to a single method can become counterproductive. Monitor your efforts with honest reflection. Is this step moving me in the intended direction? What adjustments might serve the aim better? Adjust based on experience, without self-reproach. Each outcome, whether expected or not, offers valuable information. This adaptive stance combines determination with practical wisdom, ensuring your efforts remain effective rather than merely stubborn. The act of setting and pursuing purposeful aims strengthens resolve in itself. When you clearly declare a direction and take even one step toward it, you affirm your capacity for self-direction. Over time, this builds confidence that you are the author of your daily experience rather than a passive recipient of circumstances. You begin to notice how aligned aims create harmony across different areas of life. An aim of greater composure supports better relationships. An aim of consistent contribution enhances a sense of connection and meaning. Consider how this practice intersects with the cultivation of virtues. A purposeful aim should ultimately serve the development of wisdom, sound judgment, courage, facing necessary challenges, justice, fairness toward others, and temperance, balanced self-mastery. For instance, an aim to improve physical vitality might be framed not merely as feeling better, but as cultivating the energy needed to act with greater presence and kindness toward those around me. This deeper why infuses the aim with lasting motivational power. It connects daily effort to the larger vision of a flourishing life. Challenges inevitably arise in maintaining purposeful directions. Distractions pull attention elsewhere. Fatigue or discouragement may tempt you to loosen commitment. External setbacks can test resolve. In these moments, return to the foundational distinction. Focus on renewing your intention and taking the next available step within your control. A single day of renewed effort often reignites momentum. Remember that consistency matters more than perfection. Missing a step is not failure. Abandoning the direction is. Gentle return to the path honors the art of purposeful living. Periodic review deepens the practice. Set aside a quiet moment each week or month to examine progress. Ask, how has this aim shaped my days? What evidence shows movement in the right direction? Where might refinement help? Celebrate small signs of growth. A moment of steadier response, a completed daily step, a noticed improvement in outlook. Such acknowledgement reinforces the positive cycle of thought, feeling, and action. This chapter's principles prepare the ground for resilience and integration in later sections. Clear aims provide the compass when facing adversity. They supply the structure for daily reflection and habit formation. Without them, even the best intentions remain diffuse. With them, life gains coherence and quiet power. Everything you need to begin resides within you. The capacity for clear thinking, the ability to choose a direction, and the will to take small steps. No elaborate planning tools or external validation are required. A simple notebook or mental note suffices for recording your aims and daily intentions. The true work happens in the quiet moments of decision and the accumulated actions that follow. Start today with one purposeful aim. Choose a single area that calls to you. Frame it clearly. Make it attainable yet meaningful. Break it into a small daily step and commit to it for the coming week. Notice how even this modest beginning creates a sense of directed energy. Carry the awareness that you are engaging in a timeless human practice, directing intention toward what is excellent and within your power. As you continue, these aims become threads weaving a richer, more intentional existence. They transform routine days into opportunities for quiet excellence. They foster a life of momentum without frenzy, purpose without pressure. In time, the art of setting purposeful directions feels less like a technique and more like a natural expression of your sovereign self. The inner citadel grows stronger with every aligned step. Your flourishing unfolds not through grand declarations alone, but through the steady, deliberate art of choosing clear and attainable aims, and walking toward them with reason, patience, and resolve. Chapter 6. Mastering Emotional Responses. Building Resilience Through Reason. Emotions arise naturally as part of the human condition, vivid signals that color our experience of the world. Yet they need not overwhelm us or dictate our course. Through the steady application of reason, we can engage with feelings in ways that preserve inner balance and support wise action. This mastery does not seek to eliminate emotion, which would diminish the richness of life, but rather to navigate it with clarity, ensuring that transient feelings serve rather than enslave us. At its core, this practice rests on a fundamental observation. Emotions are closely tied to our interpretations of events. The same circumstance can evoke vastly different responses, depending on the lens through which we view it. A sudden change in plans might spark frustration if interpreted as a personal slight or disruption of comfort. Viewed instead as a neutral occurrence offering an opportunity to practice adaptability, the same event can be met with composure. Reason allows us to examine these interpretations, and where they prove unhelpful or exaggerated, to gently adjust them toward perspectives grounded in what we can influence. This approach aligns with enduring philosophical insights that distinguished between external happenings and our internal responses. Early thinkers emphasized that disturbances often stem less from events themselves than from the opinions and judgments we attach to them. A physical setback, a sharp word from another, or an unexpected loss carries no inherent power to unsettle the mind unless we grant it through our framing. By pausing to question that framing, is this view accurate? Does it align with reality and my deeper aims? We reclaim agency. Consider the physiology of emotion. Feelings often surge quickly, accompanied by changes in breathing, posture, or tension. Rather than fighting the initial wave, acknowledge it fully. Name the sensation without judgment. This is anger rising, or this is fear tightening my chest. Naming creates a small but crucial distance, preventing immediate fusion between the feeling and your sense of self. From this vantage, reason can intervene. Ask, what thought or assumption is fueling this? Is the assumption fully supported by facts, or has imagination amplified it? Many disturbances grow in the realm of anticipation. We suffer more from imagined futures than from present realities. A practical sequence emerges for daily use. When a strong emotion surfaces, 1. Pause and create space. Even a few deliberate breaths can interrupt automatic reactivity. Inhale slowly, hold briefly, exhale fully. A simple rhythm that calms the body and clears mental fog. 2. Identify the feeling and its trigger. Describe it neutrally. I feel disappointment because the outcome differed from my expectation. Examine the underlying judgment. What meaning have I assigned? Is it helpful, or does it lead to unnecessary suffering? For instance, interpreting a colleague's criticism as proof of personal failure may intensify self-doubt. Reframing it as useful feedback about one area of performance opens the door to growth. Consider alternative perspectives. What would a more balanced view look like? Could this situation serve as practice for a valued quality such as patience or thoroughness? Many ancient reflections encouraged viewing obstacles as training grounds for virtue, transforming potential adversity into opportunity for strengthening character. Choose a constructive response. Decide on an action or deliberate non-action that aligns with reason and your broader intentions. This might mean responding calmly in conversation, adjusting a plan, or simply releasing attachment to an uncontrollable outcome. Repeated application of this sequence builds resilience. Resilience here is not the absence of difficulty or feeling, but the capacity to move through both without being derailed. It grows like a muscle. Each deliberate engagement makes the next easier. Over time, reactivity diminishes and a steadier presence emerges. Common emotional patterns illustrate the value of this work. Anger often arises when we perceive injustice or block desires. Reason invites us to ask whether the anger serves justice or merely fuels escalation. If the core issue lies within our sphere, our own conduct or effort, we can address it directly. If it involves another's behavior, we focus on our response while accepting that we cannot command their choices. Fear, particularly of uncertainty or loss, shrinks when examined. Many feared outcomes never materialize, and even when they do, our capacity to respond with dignity remains intact. Sadness or grief, while natural and worthy of space, can be honored without descending into prolonged despair by anchoring in gratitude for what was and purposeful steps forward. Daily life offers endless opportunities for practice. In relationships, emotions can intensify when expectations clash with reality. Instead of demanding that others behave as we wish, we govern our own contributions, speaking with clarity and kindness, listening with presence. At work or in creative pursuits, frustration from delays or setbacks yields to renewed focus when we redirect energy toward the next controllable step. Even solitary moments, such as facing personal shortcomings or habits we wish to change, benefit from compassionate reason rather than harsh self-judgment. This mastery also enhances decision-making. Emotions provide valuable information, signaling what matters deeply, yet unchecked, they can cloud judgment. A surge of enthusiasm might inspire bold action, but reason tempers it with realistic assessment of effort required. Discouragement might signal the need for rest or adjustment, yet reason prevents it from halting progress entirely. The balanced mind weighs feeling alongside evidence and values, arriving at choices that sustain long-term flourishing. Challenges to this practice are inevitable. Intense emotions can feel overwhelming, making pause difficult at first. Old habits of rumination or immediate reaction may reassert themselves. In such moments, return to the basics. One breath, one honest question. Progress is rarely linear. Setbacks themselves become material for further refinement. View each instance of struggle as data rather than defeat, evidence of where greater attention is needed. The rewards of consistent practice are profound. Inner weather stabilizes. You experience the full spectrum of human feeling: joy, love, excitement, sorrow, without being capsized by any single wave. Relationships deepen because you bring steadiness rather than volatility. Goals advance more smoothly as energy is conserved for purposeful action instead of emotional recovery. A quiet confidence grows, the knowledge that, whatever arises, you possess the tools to meet it with reason and integrity. This capacity for reasoned engagement with emotion connects to the broader protocol of sovereign living. It builds directly upon the foundation of distinguishing what is within your power, Chapter 1, and supports the cultivation of virtues, Chapter 2, the reshaping of thought patterns, Chapter 3, and the formation of helpful habits, Chapter 4. Clear aims, Chapter 5, become more attainable when emotional storms do not scatter your focus. Daily reflection, Chapter 7, gains depth as you review not only actions, but the emotional states that accompanied them. Modeling excellence, Chapter 8, transforming setbacks, Chapter 9, and living an integrated life of contribution, Chapter 10, all rest upon this ability to navigate feelings without being ruled by them. Everything needed for this mastery already resides within you. The capacity for pause, inquiry, and reasoned choice is part of our shared human endowment. These pages serve only as a gentle reminder and structured guide, pointing you back to your own inner resources. No external aids are required, only your attention and willingness to practice. Begin today with one emotional moment. Choose a mild instance if possible, a minor irritation or fleeting worry, and apply the sequence. Notice the small shift that occurs. Carry this awareness into tomorrow and the days that follow. With patience and repetition, emotional responses become less like turbulent seas and more like passing weather across a stable landscape. Your inner citadel grows stronger, not by suppressing life's winds, but by learning to sail skillfully among them. Resilience through reason is a lifelong cultivation. Return to this chapter whenever emotions feel particularly strong. Read slowly, reflect on a recent experience, and apply one element of the practice. Over time, you will discover that feelings, once potential masters, become valued allies, informing, energizing, and enriching a life grounded in clarity and purpose. Chapter 7. The Daily Examination. Reflection as a Tool for Growth. Regular self-review stands as one of the most powerful practices for steady, lasting improvement in the art of living. At the close of each day, turning inward to examine your thoughts, words, and actions with honesty and kindness creates a quiet space where experience transforms into wisdom. This is not a ritual of harsh judgment or exhaustive accounting, but a gentle, purposeful pause, an opportunity to notice what aligned with your deeper aims and virtues, where missteps occurred, and what small adjustments might serve you better tomorrow. Everything needed for this examination already resides within you. Your memory, your capacity for clear observation, and your natural desire to grow. No external tools, journals, or special conditions are required, though a few quiet moments alone suffice. The roots of this practice reach back to ancient philosophical traditions that valued rational self-awareness as essential to a well-lived life. Early thinkers recognized that days pass quickly, and without deliberate review, valuable lessons slip away unnoticed. One approach involved mentally retracing the sequence of events, the people encountered, the tasks undertaken, the words spoken, and asking simple yet penetrating questions. Where did I act in accordance with reason and virtue? Where did I fall short? What duty or opportunity remained unfulfilled? Such inquiry was seen not as self-reproach, but as a form of inner governance, like pleading one's own case before a trusted court of reason. The goal was improvement through clarity, leading to more restful sleep and greater mindfulness the following day. In practice, this daily examination cultivates self-awareness by shining light on patterns that might otherwise remain hidden. Human beings often repeat unhelpful behaviors because they go unexamined. A moment of impatience in conversation, a neglected commitment, or a lapse into unnecessary worry, these small occurrences accumulate if left unchecked. By reviewing them calmly, you interrupt the cycle. You begin to see connections, how a hasty judgment in the morning influenced a later interaction, or how choosing composure in one situation built resilience for another. This awareness itself becomes a gentle corrective force. Begin the examination in a spirit of balance and compassion. Find a quiet moment as the day winds down, perhaps after evening responsibilities have settled, when the mind can turn inward without distraction. Sit or lie comfortably and allow the events of the day to unfold in memory, not as a rushed summary, but as a thoughtful replay. Ask yourself 3 guiding questions, adapted to your own language and circumstances. What did I do today that aligned with my chosen standards? Moments of patience, fairness, diligence, or clear thinking. Where did I fall short or act contrary to those standards? Perhaps through haste, avoidance, or unhelpful interpretation of events. What small adjustment or opportunity for better alignment presents itself for tomorrow? Answer these without exaggeration or defensiveness. Celebrate genuine efforts, even modest ones. A single instance of choosing calm over reactivity deserves recognition, as it strengthens the inner habit. For shortcomings, view them as information rather than condemnation. Ask, what thought or impulse led there? Was it rooted in something outside my control, or in a judgment I can refine? Then gently note one practical step forward. If impatience arose in a discussion, tomorrow you might pause longer before responding, or remind yourself of the shared humanity in the other person. This process strengthens accountability while protecting against discouragement. Reflection that turns punitive loses its value. The mind withdraws or rationalizes instead of learning. Approach it as a trusted advisor might, honest yet encouraging. Over time, the practice builds a more integrated character. You notice progress in areas once difficult, greater steadiness in uncertainty, more consistent follow-through on intentions, or kinder interpretations of others' actions. The benefits extend far beyond the evening minutes spent. Daily examination enhances decision-making throughout the day because the habit of review carries forward. Knowing you will reflect later encourages more deliberate choices in the moment. It reduces reactivity by creating psychological distance. Events are observed rather than immediately fused with strong emotion. Sleep often improves as the mind releases the day's residue without rumination. Most importantly, it turns ordinary experience into a curriculum for growth. Every interaction, challenge, or quiet success becomes material for refinement. Consider how this applies across different life domains. In relationships, review might reveal a moment when you truly listened versus one where defensiveness arose. The lesson could be to practice pausing and restating the other's view before replying. In work or creative pursuits, you might note where focused effort produced good results and where distraction diluted them, leading to a firmer morning intention for undivided attention. In personal habits related to health or temperance, reflection highlights successes in moderation and gentle corrections for excess. Even in solitude, examining inner dialogue uncovers recurring narratives, perhaps overly critical self-talk, and allows replacement with more balanced perspectives. Challenges naturally arise when establishing this habit. Some evenings bring fatigue, making reflection feel burdensome. On such nights, keep it especially brief. A mental scan of 3 highlights and 1 area for growth suffices. Others face resistance from the mind's tendency to avoid discomfort. When shortcomings surface, the impulse may be to justify or minimize them. Counter this by remembering the purpose, not perfection, but progressive alignment with your better nature. Treat difficult insights as valuable data, much like a navigator uses observations of currents and winds to adjust course. Consistency matters more than duration or depth at first. Even a few minutes nightly compound over weeks and months. Many who adopt the practice report a growing sense of coherence. Life feels less chaotic and more directed. Patterns that once seemed intractable become manageable as repeated examination reveals their triggers and offers repeated opportunities for new responses. The mind grows more skilled at honest self-observation, turning what could be self-criticism into constructive self-guidance. This chapter builds directly upon the foundation of sovereignty established earlier. By distinguishing what lies within your control, you gain the freedom to examine your responses without being overwhelmed by externals. It connects to the cultivation of virtues by providing a daily arena to practice wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance in concrete ways. It supports the reshaping of thought patterns by catching unhelpful interpretations early, and it reinforces habit formation through the power of repetition. The act of reviewing itself becomes a steadying ritual. No elaborate system or record-keeping is necessary. Some may find value in silently noting insights or mentally framing a single sentence of commitment for the next day. Others prefer pure mental review. The key is sincerity and regularity. As the practice deepens, you may naturally expand the questions. How did my actions today contribute to the common good? In what ways did I demonstrate resilience in the face of difficulty? Yet even the simplest form, noticing efforts, shortcomings, and next steps, yields rich results. Ultimately, the daily examination transforms living from a passive sequence of events into an intentional unfolding. It honors the truth that human beings are works in progress, capable of refinement through attentive effort. You are not required to achieve flawless days, only to meet each one with increasing awareness and goodwill. The cumulative effect is a life marked by greater integrity, calmer presence, and deeper satisfaction. Everything required lives within you already. Your memory holds the day's events. Your reason can sort them with fairness. Your will can commit to small improvements. These pages merely remind and encourage what your own nature already inclines toward: the quiet pursuit of a better self, one reflective evening at a time. Make this examination your gentle companion. Begin tonight with openness and patience. Notice what arises, honor the process, and rest knowing that tomorrow offers fresh ground for practice. Through consistent return to this inner review, the citadel of your character grows stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with the flourishing life you seek. Chapter 8: Modeling Excellence Through Observation and Practice. Human beings possess a remarkable capacity to accelerate their own development by observing the qualities and behaviors of others who embody what we admire. This process of learning through careful watching and thoughtful adaptation forms one of the most powerful pathways to growth available to us. Excellence in character, composure, kindness, or persistence does not need to be invented from nothing. It can be recognized in living examples and gradually woven into our own conduct through deliberate practice. Everything required for this form of advancement already resides within you. The ability to notice, reflect, and experiment with small changes in how you think, speak, and act. At its core, This approach rests on a simple yet profound truth drawn from ancient philosophical traditions. We become more like the patterns we repeatedly engage with. Early thinkers such as Aristotle observed that virtues of character are acquired not merely through abstract instruction, but through habitual action, and that observing skilled or virtuous individuals provides clear models for those actions. A builder learns by building, a musician by playing, and similarly, a person cultivates steadiness by watching and practicing steady responses, or fairness by noting and replicating fair interactions. The observation serves as a living template, revealing what is possible when certain qualities are consistently expressed. This is not about blind copying or losing your own identity. True modeling involves discernment. You select a specific quality that resonates with your values and circumstances, study how it manifests in thought, word, and deed, and then adapt small elements of it to your unique life. The goal is not imitation for its own sake, but acceleration of your own cultivation of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, the foundational qualities that support a flourishing existence. Consider how this unfolds in everyday life. Suppose you wish to develop greater composure under pressure. You might notice someone who remains calm during heated discussions. They listen fully before responding, maintain even breathing, and choose words that de-escalate rather than inflame. Their physiology is relaxed yet attentive. Their focus stays on understanding rather than winning. You do not need to mimic their exact gestures or tone. Instead, experiment with one small aspect, perhaps pausing for a slow breath before replying in your next conversation, or directing your attention to the other person's perspective rather than immediately defending your own. Over repeated trials, this borrowed element becomes integrated into your natural repertoire. The same principle applies across domains. In relationships, observe someone who consistently demonstrates fairness and kindness, even in disagreement. They acknowledge the other's viewpoint without surrendering their own principles. They act with equity rather than favoritism. In your own interactions, you might practice one related behavior, voicing appreciation for a differing opinion before stating your own, or ensuring your actions align with treating others as you would wish to be treated. In creative or professional pursuits, watch for persistence in the face of setbacks, the quiet determination to return to the task after disappointment, adjusting approach without self-reproach. Adopt a single micro-action, such as resuming effort after a minor failure, with a brief moment of reflection on what can be learned. This observational practice gains depth when paired with the foundation established in earlier chapters, the clear distinction between what you can control and what you cannot. You cannot force yourself to instantly possess every admired quality, nor can you control how perfectly others model them. What remains yours is the choice to notice, to reflect, and to experiment with small, repeatable actions. External role models may come and go, succeed or falter, but your inner work of adaptation stays within your sovereign domain. Ancient reflections on virtue emphasize that character develops through habituation, the steady repetition of appropriate actions until they feel natural. Observation supplies the vivid examples that make those actions concrete and attainable. Without models, we might struggle to envision what courage looks like in daily moments, or how temperance balances desire with restraint. With them, the path becomes clearer. A person facing fear might recall an observed instance of steady action despite uncertainty and try a similar inward steadiness, naming the fear without letting it dictate the response. Someone working on balanced self-control might note how another moderates impulses through deliberate pauses, and then introduce their own brief pause before acting on strong desires. To begin this practice effectively, follow a gentle, structured sequence that requires no external resources. 1. Selection. Choose one quality or trait you wish to strengthen. Keep it specific and aligned with the core virtues, perhaps steadiness in difficulty, fairness in relationships, or persistence in meaningful tasks. Avoid overwhelming yourself with many at once. Depth in one area compounds more effectively than breadth. 2. Observation. Watch mindfully for examples in daily life. This might be a colleague handling feedback gracefully, a historical or literary figure whose writings reveal their approach, readily available through public reflection, a family member showing patience, or even your own past moments of relative success in that quality. Pay attention not just to outward behavior, but to the underlying attitude, the focus of attention, the internal dialogue, the timing of responses. 3. Reflection. Ask yourself clarifying questions rooted in reason. How does this quality express itself in thought, in emotion, in action? What small piece feels adaptable to my current circumstances? How am I practicing it align with living according to wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance? 4. Experimentation. Select one micro-action and practice it deliberately in a low-stakes situation first. Perform it once or twice today, then reflect briefly afterward. What felt different? What was challenging? What small adjustment might improve the next attempt? Treat each trial as information rather than judgment. 5. Repetition and integration. Repeat the action consistently over days and weeks. As habituation takes hold, the behavior becomes less effortful and more automatic. Gradually expand it to more varied or demanding contexts. Notice how it begins to support other areas of your inner citadel: clearer thinking, steadier emotions, more purposeful direction. Challenges naturally arise in this process. You may encounter moments when the observed quality feels distant from your current habits, leading to self-doubt. In such cases, return to the dichotomy of control. You cannot instantly transform your character, but you can choose the next small effort. Discouragement itself becomes material for practice. Observe it, apply rational perspective, and redirect toward continued experimentation. Another common obstacle is the tendency to idealize models to the point of paralysis. Remember that even those who demonstrate excellence in one area remain human, subject to the same mix of strengths and limitations we all navigate. The purpose is not perfection in replication, but progress in your own cultivation. Adapt freely. What serves one person's context may need modification for yours. Benefits accumulate quietly, yet powerfully. As you incorporate elements of observed excellence, you experience greater ease in previously difficult situations. Interactions deepen because you bring more presence and fairness. Challenges lose some of their sting as you meet them with practiced steadiness or persistence. Over time, this modeling contributes to the integrated life described in the final chapter. A character that naturally radiates positive influence through consistent example rather than forceful effort. Historical and philosophical writings offer abundant illustrations without requiring any specific modern sources. Accounts of individuals who faced adversity with composure or who treated others with consistent equity provide timeless templates. Early reflections on ethics frequently highlighted how young people develop character partly by associating with and emulating those further along the path of virtue. The same mechanism operates across ages. We are shaped by the company we keep and the qualities we choose to study and practice. In solitude, when living examples are less immediately visible, turn inward or to recorded wisdom. Recall moments from your own life when you approximated the desired quality, even imperfectly. These personal precedents serve as internal models. Alternatively, consider universal human experiences. The parent showing patience amid chaos, the worker returning to a difficult task after setback. These archetypes live in collective memory and can be called upon for reflection. As with all practices in this protocol, compassion toward yourself remains essential. Progress is rarely linear. Some days the modeled action flows naturally. Others require more conscious effort. View both as valuable data. The evening examination from Chapter 7 pairs beautifully here. Note where observation and practice aligned with your aims. where it fell short, and what small adjustment tomorrow might invite. This chapter builds directly upon the preceding ones. The sovereignty of distinguishing control, Chapter 1, prevents frustration when models or results fall short. Cultivation of core virtues, Chapter 2, provides the compass for what to model. Awareness of thought, feeling, action cycles, Chapter 3, helps you notice and redirect internal responses during practice. Habit formation through repetition, Chapter 4, explains why consistent microactions create lasting change. Purposeful aims, Chapter 5, ensure modeling serves meaningful directions rather than distraction. Emotional mastery, Chapter 6, and daily reflection, Chapter 7, supply the steadiness and feedback needed to sustain the work. Ultimately, modeling excellence through observation and practice is an expression of human connectedness and potential. We do not grow in isolation. We learn from the shared heritage of reasoned living and virtuous action across time. By engaging this capacity deliberately, you participate in an ongoing chain of refinement, drawing from what has been demonstrated by others, adapting it through your own reason and effort, and eventually offering your own example to those around you. Everything you need is already within reach. Begin today by selecting one quality and noticing one small, adaptable instance of it in your surroundings or memory. Perform one related microaction with full attention. Reflect gently at day's end. Repeat tomorrow. Through this quiet, consistent process, the patterns of excellence become part of your own character, strengthening the inner citadel one observed and practiced step at a time. The path does not demand extraordinary conditions or resources, only your attentive presence and willingness to experiment. In doing so, you honor the timeless insight that we shape ourselves through the actions we choose to repeat, informed by the best examples available to our discerning gaze. Flourishing emerges not as a distant achievement, but as the natural outcome of such intentional living. Chapter 9. Turning setbacks into advancement, the alchemy of adversity. Difficulties are an inevitable thread woven into the fabric of human existence. No life unfolds without encounters with loss, failure, disappointment, illness, conflict, or unforeseen obstacles. Yet these moments need not define or defeat you. Instead, they can serve as natural teachers, revealing where greater strength, clarity, wisdom, or balance is needed. The practice of turning setbacks into advancement, often called the alchemy of adversity, rests on a simple yet profound recognition. Events themselves carry no fixed label of good or bad. Their impact depends largely on how we meet them, through our judgments, responses, and willingness to extract value from the experience. This understanding draws from timeless observations about the human condition. Early thinkers noted that suffering often acts as a purifying force, stripping away illusions and exposing deeper resources within. A reversal does not arrive to punish. It arrives as raw material that a thoughtful mind can shape into growth. Just as a river carves canyons through persistent flow around obstacles, or a tree strengthens its roots against wind, the human spirit can incorporate challenges into its own development. The key lies in shifting from passive reaction to active engagement. Acknowledge the pain or disruption without denial, then deliberately seek the lesson it offers, and redirect energy toward constructive forward movement. Consider how this process unfolds in daily life. Suppose you face a professional disappointment, a project falls short, a promotion passes you by, or collaboration breaks down. The initial sting may bring frustration, self-doubt, or anger. These feelings are natural and deserve honest recognition. Suppressing them only prolongs their influence. Once acknowledged, pause and ask a series of clarifying questions rooted in reason. What part of this situation lies within my sphere of influence? What assumptions or approaches contributed to the outcome? What single insight can I carry forward to refine my efforts? By directing attention inward, rather than spiraling into blame or rumination, you transform the event from a dead end into a stepping stone. Cognitive patterns play a central role here. The mind often defaults to unhelpful interpretations during difficulty. Overgeneralizing, "I always fail at this." Catastrophizing, "This ruins everything." Or personalizing blame excessively, "It's entirely my fault and proves I'm inadequate." Such patterns amplify distress and paralyze action. A more balanced approach involves gentle examination. Identify the automatic thought fueling the emotion. For example, "This setback means I'm not capable." Test its accuracy against evidence. Have there been past instances of competence or recovery? Are there alternative explanations, such as timing, external factors, or incomplete information? What would a kinder, more constructive view sound like? Perhaps, "This reveals an area for skill building, and I have overcome similar hurdles before." Replacing the unhelpful interpretation with a realistic, action-oriented one does not erase the difficulty. It changes your relationship to it. Emotion softens as perspective widens, freeing mental energy for problem-solving rather than self-protection. This reframing is not mere positive thinking, but a disciplined use of reason to align inner responses with reality and virtue. Over repeated practice, it weakens the grip of reactive patterns and strengthens a resilient default mode. The alchemy deepens when you actively convert the experience into fuel. After extracting the lesson, release any lingering emotional charge through simple practices available to everyone. A few minutes of steady breathing can calm the body. Writing a brief account, describing the event factually, noting the initial reaction, the examined thoughts, and the chosen response, externalizes the process and prevents mental looping. Then identify one small, concrete action that honors the insight gained. If the setback highlighted poor preparation, commit to a modest daily habit that builds readiness. If it exposed a need for clearer communication, practice one intentional conversation with presence and fairness. These micro steps accumulate, turning the adversity into a catalyst for measurable improvement. Historical and philosophical reflections reinforce this capacity. Ancient observers saw that those who endured trials often emerged with heightened self-knowledge and steadiness. Fire tests gold. Adversity tests character. A person never challenged may lack proof of their inner resources, while one who navigates hardship consciously discovers reserves of courage, patience, and ingenuity previously untapped. The process builds confidence not through denial of pain, but through evidence of one's ability to engage it productively. Each recovered setback becomes quiet proof. I have faced this before and moved through it with integrity. Practical scenarios illustrate the range of application. In relationships, a conflict or betrayal can feel shattering. Rather than dwelling solely on the hurt or the other person's actions, elements often outside full control, turn inward. What expectations did I hold that contributed to the sting? How can I respond with fairness while protecting my own boundaries? What quality, perhaps temperance in speech or courage in honest dialogue, can I practice now? Many find that working through relational difficulty strengthens empathy and discernment, leading to healthier connections overall. In matters of health or personal limitation, a diagnosis or physical restriction invites similar alchemy. The condition itself may not yield to direct command, yet your response remains sovereign. You can choose to focus on what remains possible: adapted movement, nourishing routines, or mental cultivation, and view the limitation as a call to prioritize wisely. Stories of individuals who channeled chronic challenges into creative or service-oriented pursuits demonstrate how adversity can redirect life toward unexpected meaning. Even minor daily irritations offer training ground. A missed deadline, a harsh word from a stranger, or a plan disrupted by weather tests the same principle on small scale. Treating these as practice opportunities prevents them from accumulating into larger emotional burdens. Over time, the habit of alchemy makes you less brittle. You approach uncertainty with curiosity rather than dread, knowing you possess tools to extract value, regardless of the form the challenge takes. Releasing unproductive rumination is essential to the process. The mind may replay the event, seeking justice, revenge, or perfect understanding. While some reflection aids learning, prolonged fixation drains vitality. A helpful boundary is to allocate a limited time for processing, perhaps 10 or 15 minutes, then consciously shift attention to the chosen forward action. Contribution to others can also anchor this shift. Small acts of kindness or support remind you that your value extends beyond any single outcome. This chapter's practice integrates seamlessly with earlier foundations. The distinction between what you can and cannot control, Chapter 1, prevents wasted effort on externals. Cultivation of virtues, Chapter 2, provides the compass. Respond with courage to face the truth, wisdom to discern the lesson, justice to avoid blame shifting, and temperance to moderate despair. The interplay of thought, feeling, and action, Chapter 3, supplies the mechanism for reframing. Habit formation through repetition, Chapter 4, makes alchemy automatic over time. Purposeful aims, Chapter 5, ensure the extracted lesson serves larger directions rather than isolated recovery. Emotional mastery, Chapter 6, and daily examination, Chapter 7, offer ongoing support, while modeling excellence, Chapter 8, shows living examples of those who have transmuted hardship into strength. Challenges to this approach are real. Deep pain, grief over profound loss, repeated failures, or systemic obstacles may feel overwhelming at first. In such cases, begin gently. Simply naming the feeling and affirming your capacity to endure it can be enough for the day. Progress may feel slow, yet consistency matters more than speed. Self-compassion prevents the secondary suffering of self-judgment for struggling. Remember that the goal is not elimination of all difficulty, but development of a reliable inner response that preserves dignity and forward momentum. As proficiency grows, setbacks lose their terror. They become expected companions on the path of becoming, each carrying potential raw material for refinement. You may even reach a point of measured appreciation, not for the pain itself, but for the growth it invites. Life's difficulties, met consciously, forge a quieter confidence and a deeper capacity for presence and contribution. The alchemy of adversity is ultimately an act of sovereignty. It declares that while you may not choose every circumstance, you retain authority over its lasting imprint on your character. By engaging setbacks with reason, reflection, and redirected effort, you honor the timeless truth that human flourishing arises not in spite of challenges, but through thoughtful relationship with them. Everything needed for this transformation resides within you already. The capacity for honest self-examination, rational perspective, compassionate release, and purposeful action. These pages serve only as a mirror, reminding you of resources always at hand. No external remedies are required. Only your willingness to pause, inquire, extract, release, and step forward. Apply this today to one current or recent difficulty, however small. Write or speak the alchemy process aloud if helpful. Describe the event, note the initial response, examine the thoughts, choose a balanced view, identify the lesson, and commit to one action. Notice any shift in energy or clarity. Carry the practice forward and observe how it gradually strengthens the entire structure of your inner citadel. Chapter 10. Living the Integrated Life. Contribution, Legacy, and Continuous Becoming. At the highest level of human flourishing, the journey turns outward, while remaining firmly rooted within. Having cultivated the ability to distinguish what you can control, strengthen core virtues, reshape thought patterns, build supportive habits, set purposeful aims, mastered emotional steadiness, practiced daily reflection, observed excellence in others, and transformed setbacks into advancement, you now integrate all these elements into a cohesive, living way of being. This integrated life naturally extends beyond the self. It expresses itself through fair and beneficial interactions with others, through quiet contribution to the common good, and through the steady example you embody day by day. A well-lived life leaves a legacy not through grand monuments or fleeting fame, but through the character you develop and the positive influence you quietly radiate. Integration means no single principle stands alone. The foundation of sovereignty from Chapter 1 informs every decision. You focus effort where it belongs and release attachment to what does not. Virtues from Chapter 2, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance guide your choices in relationships and responsibilities. The interplay of thought, feeling, and action from Chapter 3 keeps your inner landscape clear and constructive. Habits formed through repetition in Chapter 4 become the reliable architecture of your days. Purposeful aims in Chapter 5 provide direction without rigidity. Emotional mastery in Chapter 6 prevents derailment by passing storms. Daily examination in Chapter 7 ensures steady course correction. Modeling excellence in Chapter 8 accelerates growth through thoughtful adaptation. And the alchemy of adversity in Chapter 9 turns every challenge into fuel rather than obstacle. When woven together, these create a harmonious rhythm. Morning intention sets the tone. Daytime practice applies the principles in real situations, and evening reflection consolidates the lessons. This rhythm is simple yet profound. Upon waking, spend a few quiet moments recalling your sphere of control and affirming one virtue you intend to practice that day. Throughout the hours, when faced with a decision or interaction, pause briefly to ask, what here is mine to shape, and how can I respond with wisdom, fairness, or steadiness? In the evening, review without harshness. Where did alignment occur? Where was there room for growth? What small adjustment tomorrow will serve both my own development and the good of those around me? This daily cycle prevents fragmentation. It transforms isolated insights into a unified character that feels natural rather than forced. Contribution emerges organically from this integrated foundation. When you no longer expend energy wrestling with externals, you have more to offer others. Justice, the virtue of fairness and kindness, calls you to consider the wider impact of your words and actions. A simple conversation can uplift or discourage. A consistent habit of reliability can support a family, team, or community. You do not need wealth, status, or special platforms to contribute meaningfully. Offering patient listening, honest effort, or small acts of encouragement often carries greater weight than dramatic gestures. In family life, this might mean modeling calm problem solving for children. In work, it could appear as thoroughness that eases the load for colleagues. In broader circles, it shows as civic-mindedness or neighborly helpfulness. The key is consistency rooted in inner sovereignty. You give from a place of steadiness rather than depletion or the need for recognition. Legacy, in this understanding, is not something constructed for posterity, but the natural byproduct of how you live. Ancient reflections on a good life emphasized that true remembrance comes from the example left behind. The way one faced difficulties with courage, treated others with justice, and pursued wisdom without fanfare. Your legacy forms in the minds and hearts of those who encounter your steadiness during uncertainty, your fairness in disagreement, or your resilience after setback. Children, friends, colleagues, or even strangers may carry forward a quiet imprint. I saw someone who remained composed and kind when it would have been easier to react otherwise. This influence ripples outward in ways you may never fully see, yet it endures far longer than material achievements. Continuous becoming is the recognition that growth has no final destination. You are always in process, capable of further refinement, no matter your age or circumstances. This perspective prevents complacency while freeing you from perfectionism. Each day offers fresh opportunities to practice the principles more deeply. A habit that once required conscious effort becomes more automatic, yet you remain alert for subtle improvements. An emotional trigger that once overwhelmed you now prompts quicker recovery. A goal once distant feels more attainable through accumulated small steps. The joy lies in the ongoing journey itself, in the quiet satisfaction of knowing you are living intentionally rather than drifting. Challenges to integration will still appear. Life's unpredictability may test your sovereignty. Sudden loss, shifting responsibilities, or conflicting demands can pull attention outward. In such moments, return to the foundation. Sort what is yours to influence from what is not. Reaffirm a core virtue. Adjust habits or aims as needed, without self-reproach. Reflection becomes especially valuable here. It turns potential discouragement into insight. Modeling excellence reminds you that others have navigated similar trials with grace. The alchemy of adversity converts the difficulty into strengthened resolve. Integration does not eliminate hardship. It equips you to meet it as part of a meaningful whole. Practical ways to deepen integration abound within everyday routines. During meals, practice temperance by eating with attention and gratitude. In conversation, exercise justice by truly listening before responding. When pursuing a long-term aim, break it into daily actions aligned with your virtues and review progress weekly. If serving in a leadership or caregiving role, lead by example rather than command. Demonstrate the steadiness you wish to inspire. Even leisure can become integrative. Choose activities that refresh body and mind while reinforcing calm presence. The goal is harmony across all domains, physical, relational, mental, and ethical, so that no part of life feels disconnected from the rest. Contribution and legacy also invite a broader perspective on interconnectedness. Human beings thrive not in isolation, but through mutual support and shared endeavor. By living with integrity, you participate in this web in a positive way. Small contributions accumulate. Consistent kindness builds trust in relationships. Reliable effort strengthens communities. Thoughtful reflection models wisdom for younger generations. You need not solve large-scale problems single-handedly. Your role is to tend your own citadel well, allowing its light to shine naturally on those nearby. In doing so, you fulfill an ancient insight that personal virtue and public good are deeply linked. As years accumulate, the integrated life often brings a gentle sense of fulfillment. Not the fleeting pleasure of external success, but the deeper satisfaction of knowing you have lived according to reason, cultivated character, and offered what you could to others. Regrets diminish because efforts were directed where they mattered most. Relationships deepen through fairness and presence. Even in moments of limitation or decline, inner sovereignty provides refuge. You continue shaping your responses with dignity and grace. To sustain this way of living, return often to the full protocol. The chapters are not sequential steps to complete once and set aside. They are interlocking supports for a lifelong practice. Revisit Chapter 1 when externals feel overwhelming. Draw on virtues when facing moral choices. Use reflection nightly as a gentle anchor. The words here serve only as reminders. The real work happens in your thoughts, choices, and actions. Everything necessary already resides within you. The capacity for clear judgment, compassionate self-examination, steady effort, and generous spirit. In the end, The integrated life is both deeply personal and quietly universal. It asks nothing exotic or unattainable. It invites you to show up fully in ordinary moments with extraordinary intention. Begin each day affirming your sovereignty. Move through it practicing virtue and awareness. End it with honest reflection and gratitude for the opportunity to grow. Through this rhythm, contribution flows naturally, legacy forms without striving, and continuous becoming becomes a source of quiet joy rather than pressure. You stand at the threshold of this integrated existence. The inner citadel is not a distant ideal, but a living reality, strengthened daily through your choices. Live it fully, with wisdom to see clearly, courage to act rightly, justice to treat others well, and temperance to remain balanced. In doing so, you honor the timeless call to human flourishing and leave the world a little better for your presence. The protocol is complete, yet your practice has only just begun. Return to these pages as a faithful companion, but remember, the truest guide is the steady voice of reason and virtue within. Live accordingly, and flourish without end.